an answer that speaks to Ambassador Lighthouser and says eliminate it. I don't want to speak for the negotiators, but I think if you're negotiating in good faith, if you understand the constraints on all sides, and you're looking to come forward with options that make it politically feasible for each party to say that it didn't get everything it wanted, but it got enough to proceed with a renegotiated NAFTA, that we all have really good teams of negotiators and that they're capable of coming up with solutions.
I just wanted to add one thing to the history of this, which is not quite on this point, but David had said, geez, what a strange thing to look at how another country enforces its laws. Nobody ever does that. That actually the labor and environment side agreements are based on the same idea, which the fundamental question that goes to dispute settlement is whether a country is failing to adequately enforce its national laws, and not the question of whether the national laws meet treaty standards.
One last question. Steve? I always enjoy hearing lawyers talk about legal issues. Having been at USTR when we had 3 lawyers who reported to the trade negotiators, those days have long since disappeared, and so on. I think that Elaine put her finger on it correctly. The world does not view the U.S. as having an objective system in determining particularly margins in unfair trade practice cases. If you think back, for a long period of time in steel, there was a Joe Spatrini, I think his name was, very nice guy, knew everything, but you knew what the decision was going to be before you brought the case, because there is so much gray area that you do have a lot of right. You now have running the Commerce Department a person who saved 2 industries in the United States through using unfair trade practice and has gone on record explaining how we should interpret the law. USTR has spent a long time making sure that any decision in the WTO that went against the US was eventually corrected. Either one, you get rid of the adjudicator, or the judge I should say. There was nobody perhaps more respected in international trade policy than Jennifer Hillman, and somehow she didn't get reappointed. We see what's going on now with the Korea, and we're trying to fill the seats for the, the appellate body and so on, etc. So, on one hand, if I was Mexico and Canada, this would be my higher priority. But let me add one other thought, and then I'll finish it, and so I want to make it a question. Why is everybody predicting outcomes of negotiation? We have never had a Trumpian type of negotiation. We have 2 new rules. 1, we judge agreements by performance and not by market access. And 2, we judge the agreement by the art of the deal when we finish it. So I don't know why people seem to think that whether we end up with Article 19 will be determined like in a trade give and take. I mean, it'd be nice if it was. It's going to be determined at the highest level. And at the end of the day, and let me just focus on Mexico, Mexico does not have too much leverage not to sign on to what goes on the table. But a lot of the discussions have not focused on the overall strength. They focus on the negotiation. Do you really think that if the U.S. went to the mat on this case and insisted on, some change, but basically getting rid of Article 19 as getting rid of the dispute settlement as an effective panel, do you honestly think Mexico would walk away from the table? And that Canada already asked the same question about it, although there may be a different answer. Thank
you. No, trade negotiations today are determined by the leverage each country has at the table, the actual leverage, not the imagined fantasy leverage. And I think Canada and Mexico are absolutely prepared to walk away from this table. They're also prepared to give the administration what it is they're prepared to give and say take it or leave. There's no question in my mind about that. I won't digress to my views of our president's negotiation tactics, but they don't work in international diplomatic negotiations. But
I'm not going to predict the outcome of the negotiations because you're right. Will there be a renegotiated NAFTA, or will one or more parties walk away? I think we're at a state where that's very hard to tell. But I don't think it helps to have countries put forward positions which are will be clearly very difficult for the other parties to the negotiation. I think you have a better chance of a successful outcome when there's a realization. And you know, let's face it, we're old-fashioned. We grew up in this world of give and take, and the idea of being to get to some place that was satisfactory for all. And are we still in that world, or is it a world where there's a winner and losers? I don't know the answer to that.
Chip?
I think we should thank our panelists, because it's been a fascinating discussion. You can buttonhole any of them that you want afterwards, but I think our time is up.
Thank you, Chip. Thank you to our panelists. I know as somebody who grew up on the Hill in the 90s, doing AD/CVD work for a U.S. Senator, that these things are very arcane and really, really in the weeds. I actually worked a lot with Bob Lighthizer in those days when I was on the Hill, and I know how passionately he feels about a lot of these issues, especially about related to sovereignty and these constitutional issues, which I think are fundamental for him. Really interesting conversation. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for all for sticking around. I can tell by the fact that people hadn't left already that they really did enjoy the conversation about in the weeds that we got on this, and I'm really, really thankful and look forward to seeing all of you, I hope, at our future NAFTA events and our other upcoming events. Thanks.